Okay, we have found the volume of spheres in a couple examples. Now we're going to take a look at something called a hemisphere. So we see the word sphere with this prefix of hemi or heme, however you want to pronounce it, in front of that. So the prefix hemi is from the Greek and means half. Thus, hemisphere means half sphere or half of a sphere. So part A, what is the volume of the hemisphere? So all we're going to do is we are going to find the volume of the sphere because we have a formula for that, and then we will just cut in half. We'll cut it in half for our final answer. That's all you have to do for a hemisphere. So as a reminder, our volume for a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. If we look at this hemisphere, we can see the radius is 4, so we have all the information we need. Let's go ahead and plug that in. Let's see, 4/3 pi times our radius is 4. We'll raise it to the third power. When we calculate that out, we get a volume of 268.08. I'm just going to put units cubed. So that's the volume if this was a whole sphere. Well, it's not. It's half of one. So we're going to take this volume and we are going to cut it in half. So maybe we'll just make a little note, cut in half. So when you go back and look over your notes, you'll remember what we did. Let's say 4 hemisphere. Okay, so we take that 268.08. We will divide that by 2, cutting that in half, and we get 134.04 units cubed, and that is the volume of the hemisphere. Okay, we have a couple more examples to run through. This time they're kind of describing in words versus having a picture. What is the volume of a hemisphere with a radius of 3 feet? Well, that's pretty straightforward. They gave us the radius is 3. So we're going to find the volume of a sphere, and then we're going to cut it in half. So our volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi times our radius. Let's just go ahead and plug that 3 in right now to the third power. We go ahead and calculate that out, and we get a volume of 113.10. We know our unit this time, so feet cubed. That's the volume of the sphere. Now we're going to take that, and for the hemisphere, we're going to cut that in half. 113.10 divided by 2 gives us 56.55 feet cubed for the hemisphere. All right, one more. What is the volume of a hemisphere with a diameter of 13 centimeters? All right, we got tricky. We have a diameter instead of a radius. So good thing we know that relationship. If your diameter is 13 centimeters, a radius will just be half of that. So we're going to use a radius of 6.5 centimeters. We're going to find the volume of the sphere, and then we'll cut it in half for a hemisphere. So our volume is 4/3 pi times our radius of 6.5 cubed. We calculate that out and we get, let's see, a volume of 1,150.35 centimeters cubed. So remember, that's the volume of the whole sphere. Now for the hemisphere, we're going to take that 1,150.35. We're going to divide it by 2. We want half of the volume for a hemisphere. That gets us to 575.17 centimeters cubed.